After having the 1.5 format for well over a month and a half now, I figured it was time to talk about the most impactful cards from the set for right now, as well as the most impactful cards for the future. Let's get started. Welcome back everyone, my name is Steven Rodriguez, I'm your true champion, and that is right. Today we are talking about the must-have cards from set 1.5, the cards that you want to pick up if you want to be as competitive as possible right now, or that you want to pick up so that way you can have an easier time being competitive in the future. Basically, I did something like this back when 1.0 was around, where I talked about some of my favorite cards in the set for the current meta, as well as some of the ones I was interested in for the prospects of future decks in 1.5, set 4, and even set 5. For the sake of this video, we're only going to talk about set 1.5 cards, particularly the SRs. I'll throw in a couple of rares and maybe even some super dope uncommons, so that way you guys can know the cool cards to pick up, not just for right now, but also for the future. If you guys are excited for the continuation of some awesome Digimon content, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notifications so you know when my videos go live for you. And if there's any card in this video I didn't talk about that you think deserves to be talked about, be sure to leave it down in the comments below. Also, if you have any lingering questions or want to talk with me more about any of the stuff in this video, be sure to follow me over on Twitch. I go live every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I spend a lot of time in just chatting and I love talking about this game. So feel free to follow me at twitch.tv/TrueChampionSteven. The link is also down below. But without further ado, let's go ahead and check out the must-have cards from set 1.5. Alright boys and girls, here we are at world.digimoncard.com. I have the 1.5 card list pulled up, and we're just going to go through, take a look at mainly the SRs, but I will throw in the occasional rare and uncommon that I think is super useful for the future of this set. My general rule of thumb though, when it comes to any set, is definitely take a look at every common, uncommon, and rare, because you never know what's just generically really cool, and what might be super cheap now to pick up, but might be super expensive later on, i.e. Puppetmon at the beginning of 1.5 format, or Vmon right now. Always nice to consider. But without further ado, let's hop right in, and right away we are seeing an actual big loser in the form of GrandKuwagamon, one of the SRs for green. Alright, so my big problem with GrandKuwagamon is that he never should have come out in this set. He should have come out in the last set, because had he come out in the last set, green would have had probably its best counter to Omnimon in the form of this card, because with any DP gain, this guy becomes a 16,000 DP piercer, which is really good against rested Omnimons, or Omnimons that you rest with Flower Cannon. But because GrandKuwagamon came out in this set, where green got a bunch of new toys, he just got overshadowed by a lot of commons, uncommons, and rares, basically. Because now we have cards like Bancho Stingmon, which are much better hard counters to Omnimon than GrandKuwagamon ever could be. So in terms of like current viability, this card has none. And in terms of future viability, we just get way better green cards than this, so we don't even think about it anymore. So the only reason I would ever tell you to pick this card up is if you like GrandKuwagamon or you like the alternate art. Those are the only reasons though. Moving right along, we have the first card that I'm actually excited to talk about, which is Ulforce Veedramon. So right now, Ulforce is not really the craziest deck that exists. If you want to play an aggro blue deck, Imperialdramon is just better because A, it's faster, and B, it's kind of more consistent because it relies on Digimon, and Digimon are inherently easier to get out than Tamer cards are. So I'm not the biggest fan of the way Ulforce plays. If I want to play like a setup deck, I'd rather play like RagnaLordmon versus this, but I will say that Ulforce might actually have a bright future thanks to the specific Ulforce support cards we get once the new starter decks come out around set 5. So this might be a thing you can pick up now while they may be easier to get versus harder to get later, so definitely consider this one an investment versus an actual good deck right now. I do like Ulforce. I know tons of people that like Ulforce, but right now I'm just not seeing the viability for it in this current meta, but there could be a nice home for it in the future. So definitely keep your eye on this card and pick them up if you want to. Alright, really quick, before we talk about Shine Greymon, let's briefly talk about the gorgeous Rise Greymon alternate art. It's gorgeous. Okay, Shine Greymon time. So no one watching this video has any doubt in their mind that this deck is great right now. The question is, will it be good come set 4 and set 5? Because yellow has a really interesting problem in that it gets so much good support that everything about yellow gets better, but Shine Greymon compared to all that new stuff like War Greymon or even Lord Nightmon come set 5 time might pale in comparison, because yellow changes from this like slower advantage based deck to, oh no, I'm just gonna kill you while also killing your Digimon. So Shine Greymon doesn't really fit in that picture. I will say though that I think come set 5 meta, it'll actually be a nice little niche for him to live in this sort of anti-spammy board sort of strategy, basically able to kill multiple things at once if they have low DP. It's actually weirdly a good counter to Lord Nightmon, and of course the inclusion of Valdararm can only make this deck better, because now your opponent has to worry not only about another ultimate you have in play becoming a Shine, but also your Shine becoming a Valdararm, which could just be super good for you. So while Shine Greymon may be super dope right now, its prospects for the future don't look amazing, but they don't look bad. And if you want to just pick this up because you want it now and just hold on to it for the future, that's what I'm gonna do, and I think it's the best call. Moving on to is he really right here? Okay, so everyone knows that I love Black War Greymon. He is my favorite Digimon, but man, does this card suck. I love the ability to play a Mega for 7 cost. That's dope. Really has a niche potentially actually in Megazoo decks for like counters to the mirror for when they hard play their Megas. You could like play this for 7, then evolve into a Millenniumon. That's really fun and cool. But to say that's like a reason to pick this card up would be a bit of a stretch. There will be better Black War Greymons in the future, I'm happy to say, thanks to the promo Dash Pack one, so that gives me some solace. But yeah, this card has no practical application right now that I think is warranted of actual usefulness, and in the future, we just get better stuff. So Black War Greymon, I'm sorry, but you're probably the worst secret rare in the set, even though you are one of the coolest Digimon in existence. So yeah, I'm gonna turn you away now so I can stop feeling sad. Also, this alternate art, I mean, come on. Moving on to the red cards, we have probably one of the saddest stories in the history of Digimon. Blitz Greymon, the kid that everyone was excited for come the release of 1.5. I mean, his alternate art, which is gorgeous by the way, was in the Dash Packs. I was really excited, you were really excited, but the amount of Blitz Greymons that exist compared to the amount of Blitz Greymons that are being used has just shot this card's price. And because of the existence of control decks or Shine Greymon players that are smart, or Rookie Rush players, this card is seeing less and less play every single day, and it actually breaks my heart because he is the definition of tempo. You are gaining a big dude and taking away your opponent's big dudes, and then going for like a big removal on the next turn with Alter S or with Omnimon regular, and that's so cool, but there's just not really a good spot for it right now because he's a little slow for red decks, being 4 cost, and you either need to be super fast that you're beating the other fast decks, or you need cards that directly counter the things that are beating you, like War Greymon from BT1, which I definitely never saw coming. So while I love Blitz Greymon, I definitely recommend you pick them up, especially with how cheap they are right now. I mean, the alternate arts are like $8, and like I said, they're gorgeous, definitely get them. I just don't think he's going to be super useful for you right now, and he might not even be that useful for you in the future because we will get a bunch of new stuff for black and even for red, especially given like what red's going to probably look like come set 4 time with the hybrid strategies, and I don't really think Blitz Greymon has a home in that deck, but you never know, he could. Moving away from the card that has been dying every single day, we are moving to the card that is rising every single day, and that is my boy RagnaLordmon. Talk about stonks. If there was like a vote or like an award for the People's Champion SR, it would go to RagnaLordmon. I mean, I like this card, but y'all love this card. I mean, well before any of these Megazoo decks came about that like countered yellow-red control, there were people just jamming red Ragna, black Ragna, and whatever they could play Ragna in. And honestly, I can see why. This card is so much fun. Being able to play a super powerful level 7 that has piercing and blocker, and then do other stuff afterwards is just exciting. Being able to set up big OTKs with red Ragna, or crazy D-Digivolve swings with black Ragna, or, you know, evolve, play Kaiser Nail, play big 6-drop for 4 memory, all that fun stuff in Mega Zoo is just super great. So the card has been just slowly rising and rising and rising in popularity and usage every single day in this current format. So yeah, basically, big fan of RagnaLordmon. Definitely pick them up while you can, or while they're under $15, which I think is still the case, which honestly shocks me to my very core. Oh, and would you look at that? Immediately under RagnaLordmon is one of his best friends in Mega Zoo, Blue Vmon. I mean, what more can you say other than this is the best blue rookie? It's used in Rush, it's used in Mega Zoo, it's used in Imperial, it's used in any deck that plays blue eggs in this current format. And I promise you, if you play blue eggs at all in future formats, you're still gonna play this. So pick them up now. I know they're $10, but I don't think they're going down. So you may as well get them now so you can start using them. Moving on up in the world, we've got, the main man, the dude I still cannot pronounce, Imperialdramon Dragon Mode, the blue SR for this set, and probably the better blue deck right now, not only because it's super aggressive, has a really nice, like, OTK combo that you can attack multiple times with tons of different jamming units, but it's also just super fun to deck build with this. People jam it in green decks, people jam it in blue decks, and I honestly really enjoy using this card whenever I get the chance to. So right now, I'm definitely a big fan of it. In the future though, it doesn't really gain anything other than like 1-drop blockers. Certain tamer cards or hybrid Digimon are super useful for it, so it can gain some extra aggression on top of all the aggression it already has, which is super cool. But yeah, Imperials is always going to be a super solid like aggro blue strategy. Whether or not it gets outclassed by things like blue hybrid, we're gonna have to wait and see, but it'll still be a viable option, I think, for the next set if you do want to play blue. So definitely pick them up now, not only to play it now and have some fun, but also mess around with it in the future as well. Moving on to the set 3 yellow cards, nothing crazy here, just some staples. RagnaLordmon is a card I should maybe talk about because a lot of people aren't really playing her right now, but in the future he'll be a super useful card for, I don't know, yellow Mega Zoo strats, purple yellow decks, obviously Crusadermon, obviously WarGreymon, so that way you can spam cards like Bushy Agumon, Lucemon, Starmon, all of these like really broken level 3s you can just flash into play, either get extra aggression, extra recovery, or extra removal with. And the Maya security is pretty cool, but the main thing about this card is of course her inheritable to play level 3 or less Digimon from your hand that are yellow. So yeah, while right now she's not really making the biggest wave, once we get some certain yellow level 3s coming out, she will be super useful. Also, fun fact, she's not once per turn, so if you do restand with WarGreymon, you do get 2 level 3 calls, which is pretty broken. Moving away from the yellow cards, we're going on to the green, and we're approaching the queen of green herself, Sarismon. So, obviously, if you're playing green right now, you're actually playing Sarismon. There really is no other green deck rolling around. It's just her and her ability to not only build your board, but control your opponent's board in the process. But green as a whole has kind of taken a huge popularity hit ever since the restriction, and I still don't know why. I mean, now that we have more slow decks like Shine Greymon and Yellow Red Security Control like dominating tournaments, I feel like that should just incentivize people more to actually play this deck because it's really good against those strategies, because you can build your board, make it harder for your opponent to control your board, while also controlling theirs in the process, which is super good for like beating those control style strategies. But people don't know that yet, so they're just kind of like not wising up. And because of that, this card has seen a gigantic drop in price right now, so if you do want to pick them up, now is probably the best time because I don't see them staying this low forever. Especially when you take into consideration the possible like awesome new green cards we're getting in the future, like Nidhoggmon, Hercules Kabuterimon, etc., that kind of complement Sarismon in the form of those dudes like it when they get accelerated into play, and Sarismon is one of the easiest ways to accelerate things into play while also having a turn of aggression at the same time, which is super useful. So while Sarismon herself doesn't really get any direct support outside of like maybe a couple options or tamer cards, she's still going to be super useful for the overall green pool of cards in the future. So definitely pick her up. I think she's super awesome and might see you some nice use, especially if they ever do make some more download or Digisorption cards. Also, we have Bancho Stingmon here. He's the reason why Grand Kuwagamon is useless, because he is just infinitely better, obviously. And Crescarurumon, man, oh man, why is it every black card I like is just like the worst card in set 1.5. I mean, I love Black War Greymon. He sucks. I love Blitz Greymon. People think he sucks. And I love Craniummon. But man, oh man, can I not convince anyone to play this card. They all just want to play Black RagnaLordmon and attempt to OTK their opponent and fail against Shine Greymon all the time. But I'm like, dude, if you just played Craniummon, swung with like jamming reboot, evolved into this, called an extra dude, restood thanks to his reboot, you're building your board, pressuring, and potentially choking your opponent if you have Black Tie in play. And I'm like, this card's awesome, but no one will believe me right now. And I don't want to play it because I'm busy playing Mega Zoo. I might play Craniummon in the future. I need to prove to people that he's super dope, but until I do, no one's gonna believe me. Now, that little panic and heart attack out of the way, I will say that the future viability for Craniummon is actually garbage because, I mean, Black just won't be playing this sort of beatdown style ever again. If it's going to do beatdown, it's going to do like combo beatdown in the form of Zubagon Punch, or it's going to do beatdown rush in the form of D-Brigade, or it'll be big black blockers slash Ragnazoo slash Black Ragna. So Craniummon doesn't really have a home in any of those decks. So while I may like this card, like the idea of messing around with it, I cannot convince anyone of that right now, and its future viability is pretty trash. So don't pick it up unless you really want to, I guess. Moving on, we've had a card that I've been gaining more and more appreciation for every time I use, and that is Craniummon. I originally fell in love with this as a tech in my yellow-red decks to beat other yellow-red decks, but now I'm loving it as a super awesome card in Mega Zoo to beat red decks and yellow-red security control still. So, Craniummon is a super nice tech card, but he's not really a card you build your deck around because he's a little slow. He does give away too much resources to your opponent, and if your deck isn't prepared to sort of capitalize once they do a big thing with like a big Millenniumon, a big Alter S, or a big Ragna into a big Kaiser Nail, or whatever it is, your opponent is just going to have too much advantage over you to the point where this card is just not going to be good anymore because all their dudes are stronger than he can block for. So while I do like this card and how it has really niche uses in the current metagame, I think its role as like a main boss monster or a card you can build decks around in the future just doesn't exist. So while Craniummon is a cool card, it's never going to be the star of the show, and so it's never going to demand a super high price tag unless, of course, you're talking about the alternate art, which is obviously gorgeous. The alternate arts in this set, I don't know if you can tell, are some of my favorites. Moving on to the purple cards, we first want to talk about Lady Devimon, a core piece of consistency for any black deck right now, as well as any black deck in the future, especially those revolving around option cards, like Lilithmon, Black Metal Garurumon promo, or even Plutomon. Right next to her, we have Mastemon, the only purple SR, I think, that came out in this set. And yeah, purple got some super dope support in set 1.0, in set 1.5, their support is definitely lackluster in comparison, and a Mastemon's no exception. This card is cool. It has seen some niche uses and some niche surprises against the likes of yellow-red security control. I can definitely attest to that. I fight this card all the time whenever I play that deck, but in terms of just like overall usefulness in this current metagame, I'm just not seeing it, and I don't think anyone else is seeing it really at all either. Unless you just like want to take the chance and use her. But if you do, you kind of want to play two because only playing one isn't as consistent as playing two. And yeah, I'm just not seeing it really making any big waves right now. And it might not make big waves in the future either because there will just be better purple cards and there will definitely be better yellow cards. So why would I play Mastemon over playing those? But I will say Mastemon does get some cool toys in terms of Lucemon, as well as some other really cool yellow level 4s and below that she can spam, abuse, and utilize, which is fun. But that's not really enough to take her out of mediocrity, I think, in my opinion. So it's a super nice tech card right now that you can pick up if you're playing yellow decks. But if you're not, don't worry about this card. Moving on, we have the last cards that I want to talk about, the last two secret rares in the form of Imperialdramon, Dragon Mode, the green one, and of course, Alter S. Firstly, we've got Dragon Mode here. This card's neat. This card's cool. I think his blue brother in the form of Imperialdramon Blue is way better at actually killing people. It's way better at kind of being a part of the jamming slash restanding deck, and it's actually a card you can build a deck around, while I feel like Dragon Mode Green is not a card you can build a deck around. So in terms of current viability, I don't really think it has any. People do play it as like a 5th and 6th copy of cards that you can restand with Pyldra, which is super dope, But if you don't have it, don't worry about it. Just play cards like Puppet or Boncho Sting instead, and they might actually be better for you in the long run if you ask me. So I'm not super keen on this card. There's better replacements, and honestly, it's never been something that I'm particularly fond of. And in terms of future viability, it definitely doesn't have any. I mean, Imperial Blue barely had any because blue just gets better cards, but this definitely doesn't have any. It's never going to see play in green decks, and it's probably never going to see play in future blue Imperial decks because you need room for the advanced Omnimon. So yeah, not super keen on this card. It is better than Black War Greymon, sadly, but it's definitely not one you need to worry about. The last card, though, is definitely one to talk about for a number of reasons. Firstly, Omnimon Alter S is a super defining card for the current format, as it sort of incentivizes you to play at least some number of 6000 DP Digimon in all of your decks. Otherwise, you get drastically punished by Omnimon Alter S when you fight against Red Omni, so that's a big thing to keep in mind. Also, it's a board wipe for red and black decks, which otherwise never existed. It's super awesome against Rookie Rush, which is a growing strategy that's always seeing more and more play every single day. And I just like what this card does for the 1.5 format. It's like an ultimate check, you know, keeps decks in balance, which I like. Its future prospects, however, are interesting because while it doesn't get any worse, I think better cards are going to be coming out. It will obviously see play in black decks because it's their best form of removal, but in terms of red decks, you're probably never going to need this, especially come set 5 time once you get access to the advanced 4-cost evolution Omnimon as just like an extra way to kill your opponent faster. So while Alter S is cool, other than being like a 1 of or a 2 of tech in some red lists or Megazoo lists, it's never really going to make any waves in the future. So just pick up the 1 or 2 you need for your Red Omni decks or your Megazoo decks right now, and don't worry about them ever again. And boom, there you guys go. That'll go ahead and do it for the Digimon TCG set 1.5 must-have cards. If you guys did enjoy, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notifications so you know when my videos go live for you. And if you have any lingering questions, be sure to follow me over on Twitch. I go live every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I spend tons of time in just chatting, and I love talking about and playing this game. So feel free to come stop by, ask your questions live and in person, and we can hopefully have a nice little chat. Link is down below. With that being said, I've been your true champion, Steven. Please be sure to work hard, rest easy, and live well. And I will see you all next time. Peace.